Okay, today we are going to talk about particle theory. So the particle theory has five parts to it, and we can kind of think of it as like the five rules for the way that particles move. Okay, and different parts of the particle theory can explain different phenomena that we see. So the reason that um, if someone sprays like perfume across the room, you can smell it. That's part of particle theory, and we can explain that using these ideas. Okay, so we're going to go through the five parts. You're going to write down the name and then draw a picture as well. I believe that's what's asked for in your notes. So part one, all matter is made up of tiny particles. Pretty basic. We have tiny particles that we cannot see that make up the matter, and those tiny particles are arranged in a certain way depending on the state that that matter is in. They are sometimes arranged really organized, sometimes not. It really just depends on the type of matter that we're looking at. Okay, here's a picture of water. Notice it's more spaced out when we compare it to this one, which is all connected. But there's what water looks like normally. Okay, so at the particulate level, when we're looking at the particles there, we can see the individual molecules and how spaced they are, and maybe even how they're moving, whereas we cannot see that in this picture of water. Part two of particle theory. All particles of one substance are the same. Different substances are made of different particles. So this picture again of water, notice that every molecule is the same, even if they're flipped upside down or sideways or turned around. Every molecule has this one red and the two white. Okay, that's just our definition of water. And so if we have water, we have something that looks like that. Okay, whatever substance this is, it looks kind of like beeswax or something. Okay, no matter what, if we go down to the particle level, each one is going to look the same no matter how they are organized. This is cast iron. When we talk about iron, it's the same pieces organized over and over in a repeating pattern. Okay, now these are both solids, which is why they are organized so nicely, as we talked about in the matter notes. Part three, there are spaces between the particles. The amount of space depends on the state that they're in. So in the gas state, it looks like these particles don't have any space between them, but that is such a tiny, tiny amount of space. That's what allows them to vibrate. Okay, in the liquid state, we have more space, and finally in the gas state, we have a lot of space. Part four, the particles are always moving. The more energy the particles have, the faster they moved. Now this is really hard. This is a hard one to see. Okay, so we're going to look at this simulation right here. Right now we have solid. Okay, if we look at this, we have a low amount of energy. We're in the solid state. Okay, I'm going to click on this and we're going to see what the particles look like here. If we zoom in here, the particles are vibrating, but they are all in a nice organized fashion. Okay, now when I click liquid, first I see that my temperature had to go up, which means temperature is what we're talking about when we have talking about energy. Now we zoom in and we see these particles are moving. Some of them are still vibrating, but they can move a little more freely than they could in our solid state. If I click on gas, notice my temperature is going to go up even more. And now it is becoming a gas here. And when I zoom in on that, I don't see as many particles because they've spread out so much that I can't see them anymore. Okay. Now I can play with this and mess with how much temperature I add and how that changes these different things. Okay, now it's back in all a liquid state. Notice that this says that the particles of a liquid move past one another easily. They are close together, but not in a neat, even arrangement as the particles in a solid are. For solid, it says, oh, maybe it doesn't say. There we go. The particles of a solid are arranged in a tight, regular pattern and move very little. They are just vibrating. And then in a gas, that's when we have temperature's got to go up. We got to start creating the gas. The particles of a gas move rapidly, and there are much larger spaces between them than between the particles in a solid or liquid. Okay, so last little bit here, last thing for particle theory. Remember, part four is that they're always moving. Part 5 is that there are attractive forces among the particles. These forces are stronger when the particles are closer together. So no matter the state that they're in, there are attractions between them. You can almost think of these kind of like a magnet, okay? So if we're really close together, that magnet's going to be really strong. And as we separate out, that magnet is not going to be as strong, which means those particles are not held together as tightly. Make sure you finish up your notes, go back and review, circle, highlight, look at anything that you might need to add to them, and then ask your teacher for questions.